Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today is Tuesday the 1st of February and it is time for me to do another round of Books Against Humanity, which is my TBR game I play in order to figure out which books I'm going to be reading this month. So this is the game. Yes, I did design it myself, but it is loosely based around Cards Against Humanity in the sense that it has two decks. So we have one that has a turquoise back and these are the questions. And then the other deck has a yellow back, which are the answer cards. And together they form prompts. So for instance, we could have a prompt that is a sci-fi novel, that which is the highest rated on my TBR. And then I would have to go through this bookshelf that is behind me, this one, the thin one, that is where all of my TBR books are, the ones that I haven't gotten to yet. So normally at the beginning of these I like to do a little recap of what I have read the month before. We're not going to do that because first of all I can't be arsed, and second it was a sad month for reading. I didn't finish a lot of the books that were on my TBR last month. And I'm currently still reading these three. This one was not on my TBR, however, Helter Skelter. I just decided to pick it up because I have it in audiobook. I'm also still reading Beartown and I'm still reading The Ivies. So these I'm going to carry on into February, and then there's two more books which are Murder on Mystique and The Space Between Us. These two I'm just not going to carry on onto the month of February. I'm just not going to read them this month unless obviously I find a prompt that works really well with those. So I figured I would just jump straight into it. However, I do need to preface this by saying I'm going to pick a total of 4 cards because I still have 2 books that I am finishing this month, and I think that will bring the total to 6 books. However, I'm still very busy with work, so it's very likely I won't finish 6 books in the month of February. If I do, great. If I don't, it's no big deal. Bit of information just so you know that I intend to try and finish all the books on my TBR, but at the moment I'm not going to punish myself if I don't because life is hard. So let's get started on the game. I have my question cards I'm going to shuffle first. And then I have my answer cards, which I'm also going to shuffle. Okay, so since I have 2 books already planned for the month of Feb, I'm going to be giving myself 4 cards. So let's give myself my hand. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So my 4 cards are has green on it, so that would be great for a cover prompt. Then is illustrated, that is also great for a cover prompt, although it could be a comic book. Matches my outfit, which I'm currently wearing stripes. I think that's going to be hard. Starts with the letter ... and then randomize it. So that could be for an author or the name of the book. First question is a young adult novel that which I don't like. A lot of them are for cover stuff, so I could look at my young adult novels and see if there's any that has green on it. I feel like maybe that would be a good prompt. So I'm gonna try to do this prompt, a young adult novel that has green on it, and see whether I find anything. Maybe I'll just use a different prompt. Okay. I'm not really finding anything that I am fancying reading at the moment, and since I am so fragile with my reading habits at the moment, I don't want to push myself into a potential reading slump, so I'm going to change the prompt. I don't love any of these, but I am going to try to make it fit. So maybe I'm going to try starts with the letter that I randomize. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Okay. So I'm going to try instead a young adult novel that which starts with the letter. We'll see whether I find anything that works because I might just not have anything that I have on my shelves. So let's do it. Spin. Are you fucking kidding me? The letter Y. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm obviously not going to find anything. Okay, fine. Let's double check. Yeah, I don't think I have a single book that starts with the letter Y. So, can I find a young adult novel that is illustrated? Did you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick a comic book because I have the next Buffy comic book that I could just read, and it's definitely young adult because Buffy's definitely young adult, and I'm gonna pick this prompt. So this is the second book in the new Buffy, so I think it's just called Buffy the Vampire Slayer Nothing else. It doesn't have any more information than that. This is not the follow-up comic books to the TV show. This is a renewal of the TV show, so it starts back from episode 1, season 1, but just in modern times, in our day and age, and like some of the characters are quite different, and you don't meet all of them at the same time as you did in the TV show and all that. So it was really fun to read the first one, and this is the second volume called Once Bitten. Love the art in these as well. So I think I'm just gonna pick this up because it will make my life so much easier as well in terms of the amount I get to read. Okay, so that is one prompt done. So I get to get rid of Is Illustrated, and I get to replace that card. But even before I'm going to replace that card, I'm not that inspired by these other prompts, and I've tried almost all of them already with this card without success, so I'm just gonna get rid of them and replace my whole hand. So the rule is that once I've replaced my whole hand, I have to use it at least once before replacing it. Kind of how, I think that's the rules in Cards Against Humanity, but I'm not sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. My new cards are, is a 5-star prediction. Now we love this, okay? Next, I pick at random from my physical bookshelves by using a random number. Next is set in the future, so I have quite a few sci-fis that could work with this. And finally, for the cover, so definitely that's a prompt that works specifically with the sentence, a book I bought. Cool, so my next question is, an adult novel that which? So I'm gonna go for an adult novel that is set in the future so that I can pick a sci-fi book, and I'm gonna pick the first actual full novel of the Murderbot Diaries. So I've read all of the novellas that precede this one, and this one is Network Effect, so this is the first novel. It's the one after, I think there was like 5 novellas, I might be wrong in the number, but yeah, so read all the novellas. Now this is the book that comes after. It's a full-size novel, which I'm so excited for. It's over 300 pages, and I love this character so much, and I'm so excited for this. And I know this is going to be a comfort read, and in my head I could also tell you that this works for a 5-star prediction because both are true for this book. Okay, next I need to replace my yellow card, which my new one is going to be is a sequel to a book that I have read. And my new question is a horror novel that which? So a horror novel that is a sequel, or that is a 5-star prediction, or that I pick at random from my physical bookshelves. Okay, I don't have a huge amount of horror novels at the moment on my bookshelves, but I'm gonna go with a horror novel that is a 5-star prediction as my prompt, because I own Our Last Echoes, and I think this is horror, I hope I'm right, because I read the Rules for Vanishing book by the same author, so technically this would also count as a sequel, because although not a direct sequel, it's set in the same universe with the same characters, and we do have a little bit of a sequel-ish element to the book, I think. Definitely going to be horror because the Rules for Vanishing one was definitely horror as well. It's YA and it is spooky and I love the vibes and it was really fun. So I think this is going to be a 5-star for me because I think I may have rated Rules for Vanishing either 4 or 5 stars. It was probably a 4.5 in my head, and I just have high hopes that this one is going to be just as good. So I'm going to replace my yellow card once again. And this is going to be my last pick of this video. So we have Out of Fear of Missing Out. So this is another one that would work really well with a book I bought. And the question is a story that which is very vague. So it could be a story that is a sequel to a book I've read, or a story that I pick at random from my physical bookshelves. I don't really think it works that well with the other two, so I think it has to be one of those. I may have to look for a sequel book, which I'm already reading quite a few sequels here. Okay, so I've got 2 contenders. I have more than 2 that are sequels that I could be picking. By the way, I always forget to do this, but this is the prompt I have chosen, so a story that is a sequel. And the books that I have as contenders are either As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, and this is the sequel to 2 books that I have read last year. The first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and the second one is Good Girl, Bad Blood. And this is a YA thriller series where our main character is doing like an essay for school on a murder that happened a year before in her small town in England, and she just doesn't believe who was the main suspect is actually like the real killer. And she teams up with the brother of the guy who was the main suspect, and they try to figure out what happened together. And then in the second book, it's actually like a different story, but with the same characters, and it's her having started a podcast to, you know, explain what happened in the first book, and then someone else asks for help because someone, like his brother or something, has disappeared, and they're like, you have so much leverage now that you have your podcast and you're such a good detective, blah blah, please help. And she originally doesn't want to because she's like, being a detective, even though she's a teenager, is like really hard, especially on my own personal relationships. I think it got like some of her family in danger and stuff like that in the first book, and so she refuses at first, but then she ends up being like, okay, the police doesn't care, so I should actually take care of this. So I really enjoyed the first two books, and I'm thinking I might be reading this one next. Or I also have The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I adore this author. She wrote the first book, which is The Inheritance Games, I think it's called, yeah. And it was kind of a Knives Out type of novel, but with a teenage main character, where she is told that she's just inherited a bunch of money from this old guy who just died and who was like a millionaire or a billionaire, I can't remember. And basically she is sent to this manor to figure out whether she can inherit the money, because she has to complete a certain amount of like games in order to become the inheritor. I think I might be remembering wrong, but this is very much what happens. And all of the grandsons that are like trying to battle her for it are really hot, and so it really made me think of exactly the kind of situation you would have in any Korean drama slash Japanese mangas as well. So it was just really fun to read and fast-paced, and I enjoyed the characters. So this is the sequel to that. I have heard, however, that this ends on a cliffhanger, and some people were really unhappy about it because they didn't realize that it was going to be a trilogy. So I think I'm gonna go with this one. And then finally, because I am done with my card game, I thought that 4 cards would be enough, and I think I'm gonna stick to it even though one of them is a comic book. But because one of them is a comic book, I'm gonna add a mood read. I bought recently Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, and this is a very short, I think, thriller. It's less than 300 pages, and I really want to read it. Like, I just really like the cover, and I think this is an isolation type of thriller, like where a couple goes in the mountains somewhere. I'm not actually entirely sure what happens in this one. I just like the sound of it. I have no idea whether I'm going to enjoy this, because every time I'm like tempted by one of these types of books, they end up being psychological thrillers rather than thrillers, and these are very different. And I don't actually love psychological thrillers because a lot of the time they're very, very slow paced and no one dies until like very late in the book, and I'm like, I want people to die earlier than that. I'm sorry, this is just not my gig. So these are technically, all the new books that I'm going to be reading in February, but I also have these 3 that I'm adding to the pile. So we have Beartown, The Ivies, and Helter Skelter that I have started and that I intend to finish in February. But these are the main pile of the February TBR. So we have Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors, As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, or Last Echoes by Kate Alice Marshall, then Network Effect by Martha Wells, and finally the second comic book in the new Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics. And that's it. That's everything that I'm going to be reading in the month of February, hopefully. But again, if I don't get to it, no punishment for myself. Also, it's my birthday literally tomorrow. I'm not going to punish myself when it's my birthday month. Okay, that's it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. I always try to respond. Consider subscribing, ring that bell, all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one.